Hi, my name is Brendan Sankowski, and I'm here today to partner with Santa Clara County Library District to talk about how to start producing music in FL Studio. This will be a two-part video, and in this part I'll be going over the versions of FL and some of the basic interface of FL Studio. And in the second, I'll be going into more detail about things like the mixer, and I'll end up making a full instrumental. If you're wondering why you would want to learn something like this, all music uses instrumentals that people lay vocals on top of, and these instruments play a key role in how songs sound. So if you're interested in making music, this is a really important skill to learn. So to start, you can see that there's a try for free button at the top, and this will let you use a free trial of FL Studio equal to the Producer's Edition. The problem is, after you make something, you can't load it back up again, so it's good for fiddling around with FL Studio, but you eventually have to upgrade to a better version. The Fruity Edition is also cheaper, but you lose a lot of important features like audio recording and using audio clips, so I recommend getting the Producer's Edition, which is what I have and should cover everything you need for producing a basic beat. And then the more expensive versions contain extra items for more advanced producers. So let's get into FL Studio and actually producing something. So now that we've downloaded and opens up FL Studio, it should look a little bit of something like this. You might have a demo project thing at the beginning, but simply just click File here and click New Basic 808 with Limiter, and you should start with a new project file that looks something like this. So let's start getting into the interface of FL Studio. To start with File, there's a few things here like making a new project, saving as, importing, exporting, and checking out your recent projects. These are pretty self-explanatory, work like your normal sort of file opening system, so I'll go more into this later. And don't worry about most of these options, but a big one to care about is the Options tab, which has this Audio Settings tab. And if you want to make sure if you're not hearing things properly, just make sure your device here is selected to whatever device you want to be using. I'm using my Scarlett audio interface kind of thing, but select whatever works for you. As we move to the right, we have this area here. So we have the play and stop buttons, which are pretty simple to understand. You press play, you start hearing it, you press stop, you stop. But something a little more complicated is the pattern and song. So pattern will actually play what's going on in this current pattern that you're selected, and you might not understand that now, but I'll explain in a little more detail later. And song will just play in this playlist here through this green bar, and it'll just move to the right and play everything that's on this area. This is pretty much representative of your entire song. And you can see here, you can hear a little beat going on. That's because I clicked on this metronome button, and while it's on, you can actually hear the BPM or the tempo of the song. If I turn this up to like 165, you can hear it's a lot faster. So this pretty much sets the pace for your song. If you want to do a slower song, you bring it down, faster, up. Alright, so now let's start getting into the actual main window of FL Studio. So the first thing we have is this playlist here, which can be toggled with this button. And as you can see, this is where the main window of your entire song will be. On the left side, we have something called Pattern 1, which pretty much represents like a group of notes or instruments that is playing on that sort of pattern, and you can place it down by just clicking on here. And with a pencil key, you can just click and it'll show up. If you right click while doing this, it'll actually delete them for you. And this brush tool will let you, do multiple at once like that. You also have this selecting tool, which lets you select a group or something. You can also copy and paste to move them around, stuff like that. And I won't show all the buttons, but those are pretty much just the main ones you want to know. And you can also turn off the sound of a track by clicking on these buttons. So if it's green, it'll play through that. But if it's on the gray, then you won't be able to hear it. And if you want to only hear one, you can right click and click on that, and it'll only highlight that specific piece. And you can right click back to return back. Next up, we have the channel rack here. So the channel rack is a little bit harder to understand, but pretty much the main thing I want to show about this is it'll spawn in with like these 4 default sounds, all these 808 sounds that you get when you click New Basic 808 Limiter. And if you click on this box, it'll actually show this pretty much complicated menu with what represents the sound. But the main thing you want to know is if you click on here, you can actually hear what the sound is like. And I can do this with clap too. You can hear what the sound is like. Don't worry about these numbers and these things here. I mean, these green circle things work the same as in the playlist. You can turn off a sound and turn it back on. But the main thing I want to know is if you click on here, you can actually select which sound you're currently on. And if I click the 808 kick, and we click on this new thing called the piano roll, we can actually put some 808 kicks onto the piano that we start hearing. And we can click on the different notes. I can even go higher here, lower. And if I click on pattern, play, it is playing the pattern of the 808 kick that we've added on the playlist to pattern 1. And if I actually want to hear this in the full song, I can click on playlist, drag it in, click song, and it'll start playing through here. Alright, so now we have a pretty basic understanding of how to put on notes and start playing things in FL Studio. Let's get a little more complicated now. Let's click on this another plus and make pattern 2. And now if I click on pattern, you won't hear anything because we're in an empty pattern. That's pretty much how these patterns work. If I click on 1, you'll start hearing everything again. But now we have pattern 2. And let's start adding another drum element, this clap. So I select the clap. And up here in the piano roll, we can actually make sure we're clicking on the clap and make sure that we're on pattern 2 here. And I can just click on some areas here. And we have 4 claps. I'm not going to play through the whole thing, but you can pretty much hear how that works. And if I click on the playlist, we can add this pattern 2, drag it in here. And if we click on pattern, we're only going to hear the one pattern that we're currently on. But if we click on song, we'll hear them together as I've placed them here. So that summarizes kind of like the basic elements of FL Studio and how to make a simple drum beat like this. And in part 2, I'll show how to use these skills and make a full instrumental that sounds like this. Hopefully that sounds cool and you'll be there for the next part and this inspires you to make beats in the future. Thanks, bye.